I was playing a level 20 Christmas one-shot with my regular party, and it was Dr. Seuss themed. The idea was that we'd be fighting a lich themed as the Grinch. The Dungeon Master asked us to create Seussian characters, and everyone came up with straight from the book Seuss characters. People came as Horton, Cindy Lou Who, Thing 3, and the Lorax. I cleared my magic weapon, the DM, but not my character concept. I thought we were being less direct, and I came as a half-elf arcane trickster rogue who... Wait. Arcane trickster Rouge, sorry, must be a different thing, who was named Kitten in the Hat. She was themed on the Cat in the Hat, obviously, but she was an e-girl dominatrix type. Yo, who's your D&D character, by the way?
Oh, she's like a financial dominatrix.
And everybody loved it. But I was so embarrassed. You know, on the grading scale, you did completely misunderstand the prompt. And you didn't quite have a grasp on the source material, but you put in a lot of effort, clearly a lot of passion, and some good old-fashioned creativity. I give your character a B+. Not ideal, but at the same time, I think you did great. I don't consider this a full-blown horror story. It's more something that happened in yesterday's session that frustrated me a lot, and I kind of want to vent. So, our cast is the Dungeon Master, another player, Cleric, myself as a rogue assassin, and our druid who couldn't show up. At the beginning of the session, Cleric discovered that the main enemy of his backstory is hiding in the abyss, and we needed to find some powerful artifact that would take us there safely. After investigating some old records we had access to, we found out that a noble family we had issues with in the past was rumored to have made deals with demons, so we thought that would be a good place to start. So off we go to the noble's mansion. We sneak in, truly a feat for Cleric in his heavy armor, and wander into a secret basement/crypt. I disarm a trap, we find what appears to be a piece of a puzzle, and then we encounter the trap. Since I rolled well to find the trap, the Dungeon Master told me that I thought it might be a particularly dangerous one. I tell Cleric to get as far away as he can and hide behind an old altar while I make an attempt to disarm it. I fail. A fiery explosion is released, but I manage to dodge it. How? Alright, here we go. Oh shit. Whew. Thank God I dodged that. What about you, Barbarian? Skill issue. I know evasion, but like, you know. I make a second attempt, but fail. This time I don't dodge it and take a considerable amount of fire damage, but I still have around half my hit points left. So not wanting to take another explosion to the face, I tell the Cleric to stay put behind the altar. I cast Amorphous Form and slide under the door. Here, the Dungeon Master tells me that I could try disarm it again from the other side and it would be easier. This is where I should have taken the cue and made the mistake, I suppose. I say, no, I just open the door and break the trap. So I rolled to open the door, it was closed, but then the trap that had already exploded on me twice suddenly had doubled its range and more than doubled its damage. The Cleric is immediately carbonized. I felt awful. Cleric and Rogue were great friends and just started a romantic relationship literally the day before, and I, as a player, felt like I was being punished for what the Dungeon Master deemed a stupid idea. I could even understand how it would have been a terrible idea if I didn't know beforehand what the dangerous trap, did. The thing is, I would have had no issues with it if I had been the one to be punished. Something like, the trap also explodes from the other side, would have been completely justified, but instead I made a dumb decision and killed another player. I brought him back with the one scroll we had, and thankfully Cleric's player was not bothered by it. I just took a deep breath and we moved on. I learned my lesson. If I encounter a trap, I disarm it. If I fail to disarm it, I try again and again until it's disarmed. I think it was the right lesson to learn because it worked for the next 14 traps we stumbled upon. I wish I was joking. We found the artifact and we got the heck out of there. Not a single combat, and by the end, I was at 20 hit points. We were level 17, just from the trap damage, by the way, but I guess we made it. We even managed to have fun role-playing after the fact. I have been playing with this group for over 2 years. I understand that this was not a personal attack by the DM, just improvisation gone wrong on every side, I guess. In fact, in all this time, there's only been one other instance that could be considered to a horror story. I am halfway over it already, but since it's so recent, I kind of wanted to scream into the void. Thanks for reading. Yeah, what you did with the trap was probably not the smartest thing, but at the same time, you don't need to atomize another player character for that mistake. In general, I'm just not a fan of these massive insta-kill traps. They're just not the best thing. And also, having more than, 5 traps in a dungeon is... well, it's gonna get annoying after a while. Look, I know a lot of people think combat is tedious, but heck, to me, combat is way more interesting than rolling a single skill check and just praying that you happen to succeed, and then doing that over and over and over again. At least with combat, you have a little bit of choice into what you're doing. At the end of the day, you're still rolling and praying you succeed, but it's those choices, those options that you decide to take that are way more interesting. Here, you only really have one decision. You disarm the trap, that's it. You try to do it in a creative way, hoping that doing it from the other side might make it super easy, just breaking the trap entirely, but the DM punished you by killing another character, which is just not a great move on the DM's part. We used to alternate where we played Dungeons & Dragons, except for one player, Jane, as she still lives with her parents in her mid-20s. We all understand that her parents don't want to see us there. For almost 2 years, the responsibility was generally stuck with me and my friend Pei. We cook and clean so we can play in peace. Jane, who has always bragged about how much money she has, more than all of us that is, never brought anything when we ate snacks together. When Pei wanted to buy orange soda, Jane texted, "No buy juice." Guess money can't buy grammar. When she was told that she could bring her own, she was completely indignant. All this despite the fact that no one else wants juice, and she passes the supermarket in her car on the way here. She feels we are unfair to ask for that. In addition, Jane is not always punctual, either much too late or too early. Sometimes she doesn't even cancel. She tells us she is busy and her schedule is more important than ours. Side note that some people think that being too early is not that big of a deal, and I agree, but there's a line. What the? Hey! Is it that time already? Oh, no, I know I'm a bit early. You're 3 hours early. Well, you know what they say, the early bird gets the worm. Yeah, I get it, but dude, I have stuff going on. I have a life. Yeah, I know, but that can go on pause. I'm here, so I'm sure you can make some time for me. Do you have any food or anything? Because man, from that drive, I am just... Once a player went to get pizza for everyone. Jane wrote when we were already sitting that she would be there in 30 minutes. We addressed this to the group more than once. Jane blamed us. After all, she couldn't make appointments, and we should be more considerate. In the future, I have to do a lot of organizing again. Jane talked about wanting to see every room in detail. I recently moved. I hardly find time to sleep at the moment, and Jane doesn't even respect boundaries either. For example, she just goes into Pei's notebook and searches it when she feels like it. I don't want her to search my stuff, but she says if I don't have anything to hide, a search wouldn't be a problem. She's a curious person. I have to deal with it. What is she expecting to find? You guys just keeping the death note in your backpack or something? And I don't want to cook for everyone. Well, I know she gets mad because she wants other food that day. She said on special days I could buy what my guests want, and apparently not the things we planned as a group days before. Basically, I don't want Jane in my home, but I feel guilty because I don't want the other players to take care of all rounds. Jane thinks I'm a horrible person for not sharing with her, but with the others. And I think she's kind of right. We buy to share. I have the biggest table, which is important, so I see that I should offer my room, but there's this feeling that I want to say no. Maybe I'm being unfair to Jane? Dude, oh my god. Drum roll, please. Not the a-hole! Dude, are you crazy? Jane's like a straight-up supervillain. Okay, she's not the worst thing we've read about, but good lord, invading people's privacy, having absolutely zero respect for anyone else's home, you guys know how much that bothers me. I think of home as a sacred safe space. If you violate that space, oh my god, you are at the top of my hit list. I mean hate list. Look, from what I'm reading here, Jane is just not a great great friend. The solution isn't to shift responsibility of dealing with her. The solution is for no one to deal with her. No one should need to deal with this. We talk a lot about main character syndrome in the tabletop game, but this is main character syndrome in real life. Jane has almost zero respect for anyone else in the group, at least from what I'm reading. From reading people's journals without their permission to just demanding people buy things for her despite bragging about having so much money. Oh my god. This might be my least favorite kind of person. Some context. I was brand new to tabletop role-playing games, having never played before. I'm generally a very self-conscious person, and I have this terrible fear of inconveniencing others. So when I decided to try D&D for the first time, my silly brain was convinced no group would accept me because who would want to put in the work of teaching such an absolute newbie how to play? Me over here with 5 brand new players. So I posted in an LFG forum, I'm looking for paid games, thinking if I pay for the experience, the game master would be more inclined to help me out, and I wouldn't feel so bad about being an inconvenience. Also, I have social anxiety when it comes to meeting new people, but I was willing to push through, knowing that once I met the group and got comfortable with them, my anxiety would subside. I got a few offers and settled on a homebrew game that was already 3 sessions in, and they were looking to replace a player that left. I got a really great vibe from the game master after exchanging a few text messages. I was excited when he offered to help me out with anything I needed during session 0. Now, as for session 0, it went really well. We did a voice call over Discord, and the game master was everything I was hoping for. He was kind and patient and assured me he was there to help with anything I needed. The game master helped me create my character sheet and backstory. I made a female human fighter whose village was burned down by an invisible creature, and she was on a quest for revenge to find the creature and slay it. The game master suggested this backstory as it would tie my character to the main plot of the campaign, so I was happy to go with it. My character had the depth of a shallow grave and literally had nothing else going on with her other than her obsession with revenge, but she was my very first character, so I did the best I could. In hindsight, there were some red flags during that session 0 which I totally failed to notice, / chose to ignore because I was an idiot. As you can imagine, all of these came into play later. The game master told me that the natural one had serious consequences in his game, but did not explain what those consequences would mean for the character. Alright, put your theories in now. Is it A, a super sleazy, disgusting, incel type thing? Or is it B, just a seriously out-of-touch homebrew injury table that has no business being anywhere near good game design? The prize is, I don't know, a hug from a Starian? When asked about hard limits, he said he has none, but I can tell him if something makes me uncomfortable during the game. I felt like he was trying to move the conversation along, so I just moved 2 of the things I was most worried about, explosive assault and animal cruelty, and he assured me those things would not happen in the game. He mentioned I was the oldest in the group, I'm in my early 30s, so I asked about the other players' age range. He said the other players are in their early 20s, but when I asked about his age, he danced around the subject and eventually said he's 18 and in college, but he assured me he's been DMing for over 2 years, so he's very experienced. The game. I'll only mention the most frustrating / uncomfortable incidents that occurred. Otherwise, we'll be here all day. I can't say for sure how many sessions I played in total, but I think I was somewhere in the region of 10, give or take. And yes, I should have left the game after session 1, but back then I was desperate to play and terribly insecure, so I just found excuses to push through every time. Buckle up, this is a long list of tragic events. My first session was rough. This is my first time role-playing with a bunch of strangers, and they don't make it easy on me. I play my character as a friendly person who, upon learning about the party's endeavors, she offered to join forces toward the common goal. Right off the bat, the wizard is extremely antisocial, borderline hostile at times, and basically tells everyone they don't care about anyone in the party. They were just getting on with it with their personal quests, but we are free to tag along as long as you don't stand in their way. The other players barely engage at all. I am the only one role-playing, trying desperately to strike conversation and find a reason to stick around, but I hit a brick wall each time. We get maybe 10 to 15 minutes to roleplay in every 3-hour session. The game master won't give us any time to get to know our characters, and if the party tries to do some downtime in a tavern or even take a minute to talk on the streets, the game master immediately brings in an NPC to interrupt the conversation and give us an urgent quest that requires combat. Most of the sessions are just combat. None of the characters know each other because there's never any time to establish any sort of relationship. Okay. The bandit captain is dead. We killed the hill giants and the werewolves. Yeah, and don't forget about the zombie beholder. Yep, yeah, can't forget about that. God, that fight was stupid. I think you can finally tell me about your backstory. Right, yeah, so, like I was saying, long ago in the kingdom of Gilneas, my king charged me to... Are you kidding me?
1 hour later.
Okay, the red dragon is dead now. Okay, now you can finally tell me about your backstory. Yes, alright, so as I was saying, the task that my king gave to me
Another
was...
settlement has sent word that they need our help. I'll mark it on your map. Go find out what they need. You could use more...
Every single session, we have new players coming in because previous ones would just ghost the game master. Me and Wizard are the only consistent players, and it becomes extremely exhausting to try and keep up with who's who. Because of this insane player turnover, it's impossible to keep the story coherent, and we have to constantly retcon previous events. My anxiety is off the charts, as I don't get a chance to properly know anyone enough to be comfortable with them. Every session ends with the Game Master calling out players who didn't pay for their session and ranting about getting ghosted by said players. For some reason, the rest of us have to sit through that. The party has a pet wolf my character's very attached to. One session, the wolf sniffs the rations in the wizard's backpack and rips it open. The wizard gets angry, throws a firebolt, and crits. The wolf has a low armor class and little hit points, so the attack is fatal. He ripped my bag. What? I try to talk the wizard out of it, but they won't budge. I try to jump in front of the wolf and take the damage myself, but the game master says I fail my dexterity check. I freak out because I have severe trauma over witnessing animals getting abused, and I can't even stand someone mentioning it, let alone role-playing through it. The game master rules wizard's attack still hits, and the wolf is secretly a dire wolf, so he survives. I'm still very upset and mentally unwell after this event, though. The wizard realizes their character is insufferable, so they change their character to a barbarian and a much more cooperative character. This is actually one of the few good things that happen. The party wants to go shopping. It goes about as well as you'd expect. Warlock has all his money stolen right away. Barbarian tries to sell someone some wyvern meat, but no one would pay him a fair price, so he gives up in frustration. Me and Sorcerer find a magic ring for sale. We do our checks, and the Game Master says we sense the magic in the ring, though we can't tell what it is. We can spend half our gold to buy the ring, planning to wear it in turns, and the Game Master reveals we were scammed. The ring is just an ordinary ring. When me, Sorcerer, and 2 other NPC victims confront the scammer, a city guard scatters us because they just won't believe 4 people collaborating a story is enough to warrant an investigation. We had a tomato fight with a group of orphans. It was supposed to be just a fun, silly moment, but it quickly spiraled into disturbing territory. The warlock casts prestidigitation on one of the kids to make it seem like he peed his pants. Then he encourages everyone, including the other children, to bully this one poor kid. Barbarian then throws a rock at one of the children, and the game master has them roll for damage. Apparently the damage is enough to just kill the child. I'm trying to stop this group of degenerates because I'm super uncomfortable with the bullying and the violence, but no one cares. The game master stops this madness and retcons the child's death, but only when the barbarian decides, due to practical reasons, he would rather not become a child murderer.
I hadn't realized peace depended on killing babies.
Look, I didn't realize the rock was so heavy, okay? Combat is over, we're checking our loot and find 3 items. A +1 greatsword, plate armor, and crown of some magic resistance. No one can pick up the sword as it's too heavy, and no one can wear the 2 other items without taking psychic damage. No one but my character. The Game Master reveals that the items belong to a racist king and can only be used by a human. I am the only human in the party. Everyone is understandably upset, and I feel like crap for being the receiving end of his unsolicited and racially motivated favoritism. The Game Master pushes us to find the lair of the creature in my character's backstory. We find it, and we're expecting to fight a nerfed dragon or a wyvern, since we're only level 4. What we find is an actual ancient red dragon who immediately spots us and blocks our exit. I'm thinking maybe this is not the villain in my character's backstory, and the Game Master has some other reason to introduce this creature. No, the dragon confesses to the crime. I'm getting frustrated because I don't know what the Game Master expects us to do in this situation. He's not giving us any hints, and I don't know what the point of the encounter is, since we can't fight this creature, and we have no reason to befriend it either. Mild Baldur's Gate 3 spoilers, but that does sound familiar. A major battle at the end of a character's central arc that is a tad unreasonable. Wow, where have I heard that before? Oh yeah, the House of Grief! Okay, thank God I counterspelled the darkness. Oh my God, they have another freaking darkness spell? Why can't I cast anything out of this? Are you kidding me? Oh hi, you walked into her insect plague, that's stupid! These owl guys can go die, I hate these things! Why do the random little dudes do like 20 necrotic damage? Yes, burn, you starring bitch! Shadowheart, go grab your parents. What were we talking about again? Oh, right, dragons. I moved to attack, given that my character's entire motivation is to kill this thing. The Game Master warns me that my character would die, and I tell him I'm okay with that, since he backed me into a corner, and this is the only logical course of action that I can take without breaking character. It would also give the party a chance to escape. The Game Master won't allow it, though, so an NPC shows up and kills the dragon. I'm sorry, this is funny. And it gets funnier when you remember that they're paying for this. An NPC shows up and kills the dragon with one blow, nullifying my character's one and only reason for being in the story. I'm knocked unconscious by the barbarian and dragged out without having any say in it. I stop talking, and the Game Master gives the hint that I'm pissed, and he claims the dragon is not really dead, and this was the plan all along. He goes as far as to say the dragon appears in the sky just to convince me, but I'm not buying any of this. The in-world consequences he's describing only make sense in a scenario where the dragon is dead. My suspension of disbelief is broken beyond repair now. We've been playing level 4 characters for 4 months now without leveling up once, despite every session having a combat encounter. In an out-game voice call, the Game Master confides in me about his difficulties making friends and finding a girlfriend in real life. I'm trying to be supportive and cheer him up. I start to get a weird vibe. After asking him some probing questions, he confesses he's been lying about his age and he's actually in high school and underage. I'm mortified, having just discussed romantic relationship advice with a minor on the internet, all the while thinking I was talking to an adult person. Luckily, I can stir his attention away from the inappropriate subject by asking general questions about school and exams, and he's happy to talk about those instead. We had to take a pause from playing due to scheduling conflicts and our players leaving again. The Game Master was unable to find replacements, so we took a couple weeks off. The break gave us some breathing space I needed to remember. No D&D is better than bad D&D. This game was not for me. I was constantly dealing with anxiety due to ever-changing players. Every session, something would either frustrate or make me uncomfortable, and after the whole dragon drama, I just lost all interest in playing my character. So I messaged the Game Master and told him I'm leaving. The only reason I gave was my anxiety. He's a good kid, but he's young and inexperienced and does not know how to handle a bunch of paying customers with sometimes opposing expectations. I can't imagine this was easy even for experienced Game Masters. I didn't want to affect his confidence, so I kept quiet about my other reasons for leaving. As for the lessons I learned, I got over my stupid belief that I need to pay for D&D in order to have fun and be accepted, so I applied to join some free games. Luckily for me, I got accepted into 2 games, which have proven to be an absolute joy. The groups are stable, so I'm not struggling with anxiety anymore. Everyone is super respectful of each other's boundaries, and we always discuss what we can do to make it a better experience for each other. Social anxiety is really a challenging thing, isn't it? Especially when it comes to playing a tabletop role-playing game. Role-playing is kind of weird, let's be honest, especially when you're first getting into it, and especially if you're doing it with strangers. You gotta find the right group to do it with, and hey, maybe a paid game is gonna be a worthwhile endeavor in order to do that, but here we see where that can go wrong. First and foremost, you need to find someone who's actually good. I've said this before, there's nothing wrong with being a bad game master as long as you're trying to improve, because you know, we're all learning here. But bad game masters, or hell, mediocre or above average game masters, they shouldn't be running paid games, okay? If you're running a paid game, you need to be really, really good. You have a responsibility to your customers to give them a product that they are paying for. You can't just half-ass it. This kid oozes brand new game master. I don't know if they were just wanking off for 2 years, but they clearly weren't learning how to play the game, because they have a very draconian way of correcting their mistakes, and they correct really quickly. There's nothing wrong with walking back mistakes, but your walk back can't be a sprint, because if you do that, you might end up with a whole new mistake entirely, which is what this kid was dealing with multiple times over. Nothing wrong with being young, and it's not a sin to be dumb, but if you make people pay for young and dumb, well, That's not ideal. Hey, that's a wrap. If you guys enjoyed, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of our content, then you can check out our Tabletop Tavern Tip series, where we talk about D&D advice for both DMs and players, old and new. It's linked in the cards. And while you're there, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down to the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment. We don't revolve around you. To let me know you made it to the end of the video. Hey, by the way, if you have your own horror stories, you can send them directly to us. There is an email in the description down below. Send your stories our way for a chance to be featured in one of these videos. But hey, even if you don't have any stories, in essence, like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell. Of course, the stand gets in the way of the closing door. The door to close in order for this door